to order. I'll call to order the Board of Directors study session meeting for Thursday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Could I have a roll call, please?
Director Grasha.
Here.
Director Sewell.
Here.
Director Duncan.
Here.
Vice President Wright.
Here.
President Martin.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay. Is our council? Yes, I see. Mr. Pinckney, could you read our rules of procedure, please?
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the Board of Directors, all notice meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not been first recognized by the president. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting, and the board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you. Item number 5, public input. Do we have anybody in the queue to speak on public comments?
I know of one. Give me just a moment to address the room.
I'm sorry, who?
I have one, but give me just a moment because we had a few more people just join the meeting. So before we begin with you, Maria Garden Duran, are you here to observe or make public comment?
I'm sorry, were you addressing me?
I am. Are you here to observe or make public comment?
Make public comments?
Excellent. You'll be second in the queue.
Okay.
Maria, you're
Yes.
up. You have 3 minutes for public comment.
Before we get started,
Okay, good
before we get started, I have to read
Mhm.
the public input proviso here. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit the comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed in the agenda. The public comments are going to be for items not on the agenda. So I'm sorry, go ahead with your public comment.
Okay, good afternoon, Board of Directors, March 17th, 2022. I have owned my house on 12766 Parma Drive, 16th District, Area G, number 8018 for 50 years, since 1972. My septic tank has been failing for the last 10 years. For the last 5 years, I have to have it pumped every 6 months. Very costly, $400 each time, $800 a year. I'd rather give that money to you guys. I cannot shower here or do laundry here. I have to go elsewhere. I can only flush my toilet once per day, and I have to eat off of paper plates. This makes my life quite miserable. I don't get a new septic tank because it costs $10,000, and Mission Springs Water Company keeps telling me, oh, another year or two. So I keep holding on. I keep getting the same runaround and the same song and dance for many years now. Just in the past 6 weeks, there have been 7 properties on my street, Parma, that have had their septic tanks pumped. I went to many meetings at Mission Springs Water Company in the past with John Soler, and we all voted for a public sewer. It passed. He made it sound like we were ready to roll very soon, and this was 2017-18. They have actually been promising the sewer for the last 20 years. Used to send us letters saying so. Plus, being on septic is very bad for the environment. It pollutes our groundwater. My desire is to get this project moving. Please bring us a sewer, please. I am speaking for all that live on Parma Drive in Desert Hot Springs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dory, could you make sure we have her contact information so we can do a follow-up on that?
We sure do, President Martin.
Okay.
There are no further public speakers. The other one in the queue is here for an item on the agenda.
Okay. Moving on to item 6, Human Resources Report.
The Human Resources Report will be given on Monday.
Okay. Item 7, Resolution 2022-03, resolution of the Board of Directors of the Mission Springs Water District proclaiming a local emergency persists, re-ratifying the proclamation of a state of emergency by executive order N as in Nora -09-21 and reauthorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the Mission Springs Water District for the period of March 23rd, 2022 through April 22nd, 2022. And we will be moving to approve the resolution on Monday. Does staff have anything to add to that? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Absolutely. The title says it all. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Moving on to item 8, public hearing on Monday, March 21st, 2022, ordinance number 2022-01, Mission Springs Water District redistricting. It's recommended that the board adopt a preferred map option 2 and corresponding ordinance number 2022-01. Staff?
This item, as well as the public hearing and presentation, will be given on Monday.
Okay. Item 9, accept audited financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2021. It's recommended to review and accept the audited financial statements as presented by Rogers, Anderson, Malati, and Scott LLP. Brian?
Thank you, President Martin. I will be giving this presentation, or excuse me, I will be passing this presentation to Arturo Cia, the Director of Finance and Accounting. Arturo and his staff have been doing a great job working on this for several months and in preparation for the financial statements. Arturo, take it away.
Thank you, Assistant General Manager Macy, President Martin, and members of the board. Let me introduce Gardenia Duran from Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott LLP. They conducted the audit for the fiscal year 2021. I completely understand the audit is being presented later than normal. However, with the many restrictions we had with COVID and loss of staff on both sides, it is very understandable. We have now concluded that audit, and I'll pass the presentation to Garden, who will go over the audit highlights. So you can may ask any questions about the audit process and any information of the report for your review and approval at Monday's regular meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Arturo. I think that Brad Williber, he is a partner on the engagement, and he will be the one presenting today.
Thank you.
Afternoon, members of the board. It's good to be with you today, and I am happy to present the audit results to you today and answer any questions you may have through this process. I do have a brief presentation if it's okay by the presenter for me to share that. Are you able to see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to run through these slides. There's just a few of them here and give you the results of that audit. Just to let you know right up front, it's kind of a spoiler alert. Everything is good, and the opinion that you've received is a good, unmodified opinion. It's a clean opinion, but I do still want to take the time to kind of walk through what the audit process is, since this is something that you pretty much only see once a year, so it may not be super familiar. So first of all, the responsibilities of the auditor and what we do when we're auditing your financial statements. We are providing an opinion over whether they're fairly presented in all material respects with various standards, generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and the financial statements are presented in generally accepted accounting principles. So a lot of different things related to the financial statements. And one of the things we do is we plan our audit to give reasonable assurance. It's not absolute assurance. A reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, and audit is the highest level of assurance service that CPAs can provide, but it is not absolute assurance. We don't look at 100% of every transaction, as that would not be very cost effective. So interim audit procedures that we performed remotely this year, again, because of the COVID pandemic, we were able to do that, but we were able to successfully do that just like in prior years. And that was with a lot of cooperation from Arturo and his team. They're providing documents securely via our electronic portal system to be able to share that. And we were able to do all of our internal control review process and evaluations in some of those areas that you see up on the screen here, like billing, cash and investments, capital assets, long-term debt. These are all areas that we looked at during the course of the year and did test procedures over the internal controls in those areas. We do this internal control testing not to really to provide an opinion over the internal controls, but for the basis of how we approach our audit, which are risk-based audits in accordance with the standards. Then after we do that, then after the year end, after these are for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021, we perform our year end audit procedures. This is more over the substantive numbers that have actually been, now that the year has been completed, that we can look at. And those are listed here, like some of the items that we look at. An audit includes corroborating the evidence, looking at supporting documentations provided by the district, confirming various balances with third parties for example, cash and investments and debt, and reading through the minutes of your board of directors meetings to understand any major, say, like contracts that you've entered into and make sure that those things are accounted for accordingly in accordance with the standards in the financial statements, any new projects you may have or anything like that. And then at the end of our audit, we gather all that information and we help to prepare the financial statements and assemble those, and then back and forth with management to fine tune those and make sure everything is in accordance with the way that they're expecting it, and that we make sure they're in line with the standards. And then we provide the draft, which you have, of the financial statements. And the draft is substantially the same as the final version. There's really no differences that we have now as we're ready to release the final. Once you have any feedback to us or to Arturo and his team on this final version, then it's ready to go. And as Arturo mentioned, there was some delay this year, but I do want to assure you that you are not alone or unusual in this. A lot of our clients and across the industry, people are having delays. There's turnover, there's challenges with the remote working environment and just being able to gather the information to do these things. So although it is later, you are still within 9 months of your fiscal year end, which is good. And it's not something that's anticipated to last forever. We do believe that it's temporary, and you're not alone in this. So it's not like necessarily a reflection of just something that happened specifically during this year, but it's just kind of all around happening. The financial statements that you have there are built on a framework that has been created to help the district get to the point of preparing we call a ACFR, or just abbreviated for Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, which is something that they have mentioned to us last year that they wanted to move in that direction. That's a more comprehensive report that includes additional information like statistical information for the last 10 years and some more information about the district and its ongoing activities through a letter from management that doesn't quite fit in the basic financial statement format, but it is also something that they would like to get to the point of being able to submit to the Government Finance Officers Association, who then reviews that and will, if everything is in order, which we would help make sure that is happening, then they would issue an award of excellence in financial reporting, which is great for transparency for your constituents, not only yourself as a board who are managing the district, but then anybody who's looking at these financial statements to provide an additional layer of transparency, especially in those statistical sections where you can look at the history of 10 years worth of data for various measurements, some of them financial, but some of them operational as well. So there's a lot of information that you can put there that would give you good operational statistics over a 10-year period. We also don't have any single audit That's the audit over federal awards for fiscal year 2021. So that's nothing there to report. The independent auditors report, like I mentioned at the beginning, the spoiler alert part is that you are receiving the highest level of assurance you can receive from auditors over financial statements, which is called an unmodified opinion. And that's a good thing. Some people refer to that as a clean opinion. The official term's unmodified in the standard, but that means that your financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects for the year ended June 30, 2021. We also issued some other required communication to you as part of our audit, and that's under what we call Statement of Auditing Standards 114 letter. And in that letter, you're going to find just some summarized information about our audit, but the key highlights are that there was no uncorrected misstatements reported in there. That's important. We did not have any difficulties working with the district in completing our audit, other than like the mentioned, delays. But as far as like the substantial part of it, which is not, the delay is kind of a different issue. But as far as providing documentation, they're very responsive, very helpful, very open and transparent. So anything that we may ask for, and our team asks for a variety of information from even beyond the finance department, like from the HR department, for example, or the operations department, and they are very forthcoming with providing whatever information we need. We did not also have any disagreements with management. I think that's important for you to understand too, that they were very cooperative through this. Then finally, we issued our report on internal control over financial reporting and other matters. This is over internal control on financial reporting and over compliance. We do test compliance as part of our audit as well. And pleased to let you know that the district did not have any deficiencies that were to be reported, and no matters of material non-compliance that we noted during our audit either. And that's excellent. That means that they are following their internal control policies and doing what is in place. During our audit, it's very normal for us to notice some opportunities for operational efficiencies, and we have shared those with Arturo and his team, and also general manager, assistant general manager. So things that are not problems, I would say, but just opportunities to help, make the organization even more efficient, and put in more like, it could be like preventative controls over internal controls to make sure that the financial statements are maintaining this level of reporting, especially if you move on into the annual comprehensive financial report, where there's going to be even more transparency and information released in there. You want to keep that high level standard on financial reporting. I know I'm going really through that really quick, but that's what we basically wanted to accomplish through this presentation and sharing that with you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and welcome any questions that you may have of us. And also if I missed anything, Garden, you have a chance to jump in and share. Garden is our engagement manager on this project, and she was most closely tied to this process and working with Arturo and being the liaison with our team and his team and keeping that going. And if you have anything to add, you're welcome to, Garden.
Hey,
I think, as far as the overall audit, I think one of the biggest changes this year that we saw was just like the increase in some of your water revenues related to some of the meters that were replaced. And so it also increased cash as a result. So we know that you have changed a lot of these meters, and your revenues are starting to increase. So overall, we see that there have been a lot of questions as far as the changes and if the things were properly done. And it seems, from our perspective, that the district's moving in the right direction, and that they have everything that they need in order to substantiate the fact that these meters needed to be replaced, and they're doing the right thing as far as how they're charging the fees going forward. So we see that as a positive within your district, and because we're happy to see that you're moving in that right direction and that you're replacing all of those. So, I think that's the only thing that I really wanted to cover. I think it's the biggest thing that's changed since the past year.
okay, thank you. Director Grasha, do you have any comments or observations you want to make regarding the financial report?
Well, yeah, last year I asked for an explanation why during our budget hearing, when our top financial guy at the district seemed to have disappeared the night before budget hearings. I never got an explanation for that at all until I read the general manager's report last day or two, and I see that the auditor walked out as well. And, you know, to me, that's concerning, and I don't feel that that coupled with other issues such as sharing the letter with me. I've never received a letter that's, I believe, required that asks for input into district operations from directors. And because of that, I have real concerns about not only this audit, but general operations within the district. And I just wanted to make that point clear for the record. And going forward, I hope someday to get some comforting words from our either our auditor or our district staff. Yet any year I haven't received that. I've only been given reason to be more concerned and not less concerned with that. Thank you.
Okay, do you care to respond to that comment?
I can jump in here, but I'm gonna ask if Arturo or other staff can. I'm not sure about the budget meeting. Normally auditors are not part of budget meetings, so maybe there can be some clarification on that. I can for sure respond on the inquiry letters that we send to board members. We did send letters to all 5 of them, and I do have responses from 4 of them. So if they're we're not required by standards to receive a response from everybody, but we did send it to everybody because we feel that's a good practice and that's our normal practice. Whether you received it, Director Gracia, or didn't respond, I can't say, but we provide those to staff and then staff send them out. So, I mean, we'd be happy to, make sure that in whatever capacity we can, that you get those letters in the future, but they definitely were prepared and provided to staff.
All right. I was locked out of the district email system for a time, and I believe it happened right about the time that letter was supposed to be transmitted to me. And the year before, something similar happened, and only received it after the audit had been completed and delivered to the board. So I continue to be concerned with that, and just for the record. Thank you.
Okay, Director Duncan, do you have any comments, questions?
No, I'm glad to see that our audit goes right along with what Arturo's been telling us for the past year. I think our staff does a great job. And for the record, I picked up my letter out of the box from the district office. So it wasn't mailed to me anywhere. I went in and picked it up. That is all I have.
Okay. Vice President Wright.
Yeah, no, good audit. Thank you. A good presentation. It seems like every year we have a great audit. So, it's not surprising to me. And I did pick up my letter and I sent it to you out of the box, but you have to come into the district to do that. And every board member should check their mailbox regularly. So.
Okay. And Director Sewell.
No questions, just thank you for the report, and thank you to Arturo and our finance staff for working together and getting this all finished. Thank you.
Yes, I have nothing further to add on top of what has already been said. I'm not an accountant, so a lot of this information is not something the process I'm not terribly familiar with. But from what I can glean from it, you people did a really good job, and so did Arturo, and for that we thank you. Do we have any members of the public that want to address this issue?
Maria or Pamela, do you have any public comment on the audit report?
No.
No, for me either.
Thank you. No public comment.
All right. Well, if there's nothing further, what I suggest everybody do is to take a look at the audit report over the weekend And if you have any questions, we'll bring it back to the board on Monday and ask the questions then. Okay. If there's nothing else, we'll move on to item 10, resolution 2022-04, adoption of local hazard mitigation plan. It's recommended to adopt resolution 2022-04, adopting the Mission Springs Water District local hazard management plan. Brian?
Thank you, President Martin. The item you have in front of you, the hazard mitigation plan, is in accordance with the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. The adoption of this plan is necessary to allow the district to apply for funding in the event of a disaster. This plan was completed with 75% of the cost being covered by a grant, approximately $26,000. At this time, I would let the presentation for this item be given by the district's field operations manager, Bassam Alzamar. Bassam?
Thank you, Assistant General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Martin and fellow board members. In front of you today, as Assistant General Manager mentioned, is the adoption of MSWD's local hazard mitigation plan. The local hazard mitigation plan is a plan that looks at our vulnerabilities to natural hazards and exposures to specific risks to our water and wastewater infrastructure and to our organizations, our agency's organization. I'm sorry, I thought I heard something. Excuse me. The purpose of this local hazard mitigation plan is to evaluate how potential damages from these vulnerabilities can be mitigated to reduce any adverse effects to the agency and the public. This document found earthquakes and windstorms to have the highest probability for our district, followed by drought, flooding, and wildfires, which are likely and somewhat likely in this area. By adoption of this resolution today, this will allow MSWD to finalize this approval process with FEMA, finalize the local hazard mitigation plan with FEMA. Once this document is finalized and approved, this opens the door for MSWD to obtain FEMA grants, mitigation grants, and any post funding from FEMA after any type of natural disaster. That concludes my presentation for you today. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Director Duncan, do you have any comments or questions?
No, thank you, Bassam. That was good. I thought this was like a 5 or 6 year plan that we had to do, and it seems like we just did it. I could be wrong on both levels. I'm not real sure.
So we've done a few different plans. I think what you're referring to is our emergency response plan that was done recently. This is our hazard mitigation plan. This is a document that gets reviewed and reapproved by FEMA every 5 years. This is our first one. So we'll be doing this again in 2027. And it's basically just to update any new regulations or new laws that come into place over the next 5 years.
Right. I know we've got a slew of reports and documents and agreements and everything we got to keep track of. This is just another one.
This is another one of those.
So, very good. Thank you for doing a good job.
Thank you.
Hey, Director Sewell.
No questions. I know we had the workshop for the emergency response plan with Mr. Sturtevant that helped prepare this, and I thought that went really well and was informative. And looking over this plan, I think it's really well done. So thank you to Bassam and everybody involved.
Okay. Director Duncan, do you have any questions concerning?
Just asking.
Did
My turn, I think.
I just did.
I'm sorry.
Director Grasha's turn.
Yes, Vice President Wright. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, no, good job, Bassam, and very important because we might need those FEMA grants someday. So, thank you.
Okay. President
May
Martin,
I ask,
you
may I ask a question?
Just a moment, Pamela. President Martin, you skipped Director Grasha.
I'm sorry, what?
You skipped Director Grasha for comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. Director Grasha, do you have any comments or statements?
Just adulation, really. I've the report is so thick with information. I'm only just getting through it, and I want to thank everybody that participated in it. Very thorough, and I think that if it ever becomes something we need to refer to, I think it will have the information that we're going to need. Excellent work on that report to everybody involved with. Thank you.
And President Martin, it appears Pamela has a question or comment.
Okay, Pamela, go ahead.
Yes, I have not seen any of the reports yet, but I'm just a little curious. Does this apply only to maybe earthquakes, or if there's a major water line break? How does it apply to us?
Brian, you go ahead.
I was going to ask Bassam.
I can go ahead and answer that. The hazard mitigation plan only refers to natural disasters, not any type of other disasters or man-made disasters. So earthquakes, flooding, fires, windstorms, those types of natural disasters that happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's nothing further, we'll move on to item 11, award of contract for emergency repair of 150 linear feet of 8-inch sewer line and 5 service connections on Acoma Avenue to Trico General Engineering Incorporated. Right?
Thank you, President Martin. This particular item was handled under the emergency procurement procedures that we have in place. Our wastewater collection team was out doing some cleaning and some televising of some sewer and came across a situation where they felt that the pipe might collapse if we don't do something immediately. Currently, it's under construction. I'll let Eric get into some of the details, our district's engineering manager. Eric, are you available for this presentation?
Yes, sir, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. Eric Weck, engineering manager for Mission Springs Water District. The subject sewer line was cameraed by our wastewater folks, and they found that there was some root intrusion from some trees on the north side of Acoma Street. And the area of the sewer line that needs to be repaired is about 150 linear feet, and it's located between Verbena and Mesquite. Once engineering staff was notified, we quickly prepared a solicitation of quotes informally from 3 contractors that we have, that Mission Springs has worked with in the past. And 2 contractors provided quotes. The lowest quote received was $77,600. And work started this Monday and is expected to be complete at the latest by next Monday with all the sewer line repairs and reconnections. There are 5 service connections that were impacted, and residences have been notified and they've been allowed continual access to their properties. That's about it. Are there any questions?
Vice President Wright, do you have any questions? Director Sewell. Director Gracia.
The name of this street rings a bell. Is this the same area where we just put in new water mains?
I would ask Bassam or Danny Friend. Danny's shaking his head no, I don't believe so.
My fingers were crossed that would be the answer. I'm hoping that's
It's
it.
not.
Okay,
No.
great.
It's Acoma, but it's a different area of Acoma.
Right.
It's more
Okay.
easterly than what you're referring to.
Good, thank you. I was hoping that street went through it somewhere else. I was like, oh no. Okay, the next question mostly is congratulations to you guys for catching that before there was real problems. And my curiosity is how often does the district do that to this throughout the system? Is that something that each line would be inspected once a year or every 5 years? Or how often does that happen?
Some of it is based on availability, but we are trying to get to all of our hot spots on a yearly basis and then prioritize other large collection lines and things like that and try to get to them at least every 5 years. We have put together a plan that addresses all the hot spots and things like that. So areas of concern we do hit on a yearly basis, and others when we can. But we do
Great.
try to do it every 5 years, if not sooner.
Great news. Thank you and congratulations for getting that taken care of. Thanks.
Okay. If there's no other questions, moving on to item 12.
President Martin, you skipped Director Duncan this time.
I'm sorry, Director Duncan.
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. Moving on to item 12, Water Reclamation Facility Update.
Thank you, President Martin. The presentation of this item will be given by Steve Ledbetter. Steve, you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, President Martin and members of the board. I'll be giving you an update on the Regional Water Reclamation Facility. So over the last 2 months, the construction management team has been processing RFIs and submittals, getting approvals on all the equipment and construction materials being used on the project. All the permitting is in place, the stormwater pollution prevention plan, our particulate matter 10 dust control plan. Those have both been approved by the regulatory agencies. And those are a couple of the threshold criteria needed to be in place prior to construction. The construction notice to proceed has been issued for April 4th. And over the first 2 weeks of April, the contractor will be setting up the construction trailer, the construction material laydown yard, setting up site security, and installing the BMPs for stormwater protection. In addition, we have the biological surveys required of our CEQA document. Those will be conducted over the next 2 weeks, checking for any burrowing owl, desert tortoise, and nesting birds to make sure we won't be impacting any wildlife as a result of the project. In addition, our SRF funding, it's still in review, and we've been working hard with the State Water Resource Control Board to get the final approvals for the project. If you recall, the state board is evaluating giving the district additional grant funding under the 2021 infrastructure appropriations bill. When that bill was originally passed in August of last year, the state board only authorized 1/5 or basically 100 million of the 500 million available to kick towards projects. And what we've been told by state board staff is that at the March 15th state board meeting, the state board was considering action to approve the remaining funding, which would in turn be used, or a portion of that would be applied to Mission Springs project. I was unable to meet with the state board this week due to the staff person is on vacation, but I do have a meeting set up with him Monday morning with hopes to get some more answers on the status of that leading into Monday's board meeting. If I do have an update, I will happily share that with the board Monday afternoon at the board meeting. The district has contracted following board approval with Yellow Jacket Drilling to drill the monitoring wells required for monitoring any potential impacts to the treated wastewater discharge of the proposed plant. The notice to proceed was issued on March 2nd, and construction of the monitoring wells is slated to begin on March 28th. In addition, the district has completed contracting with West Yost to prepare the TDS impact work plan, and that's a requirement of our waste discharge requirement permit. The notice to proceed was issued on Monday, and we have a kickoff meeting being scheduled for next week. Finally, the Groundwater Quality Protection Program Area M2 collection system. We've contracted with AECom to update that design that was originally completed in 2008. The NTP has been issued, and we have a kickoff meeting scheduled for next week to get that plan updated from 2008 to 2022 standards, verifying there are no additional utility conflicts. If any homes have been built in the area, we'll update the locations of the sewer laterals that will connect to those homes and things of that nature. So with that, that concludes my update. Are there any questions from the board?
Okay, Director Sewell, do you have any questions?
No questions, but sounds like a lot of good news. So thank you.
Vice President Wright, any questions?
No questions. Thanks, Steve. Hopefully you got good news on Monday.
Agreed.
Director Duncan, do you have any questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Director Gracia?
Yeah, in your opening, you talked about funding being under review. And we were assured that $16 million grant was approved, and that wasn't. So what you're talking about, the funding, that's the loan application or whatever it is, something separate from the grant, or is that?
Director Grosh, I'll clarify that. So the district originally submitted a state revolving loan fund application for the entire cost of the project that included a request for $8 million in groundwater grant funding and $8 million in small community wastewater grant funding. Those funding pots have been approved, with the rest of it being tentatively approved to come from a loan, a low interest loan. As I noted, in August, the state board approved additional funding under an Infrastructure Appropriations Act, and the state board has kind of paused where we were at in our application process. We were really nearing the end, and understanding the significant increase in the construction costs that we're facing as a district, as a severe disadvantaged community, is doing their best to apply additional grant funding under this Infrastructure Appropriations Act to the project. So we don't know what that amount will be, but it will be in addition to the 16 million in grant that's already been approved. I've mentioned it once before to the board, but again, I'm apprehensive until that number is nailed down, but they're looking at giving us a pretty significant chunk, if not all of the amount in grant funding. So that's very, very good news, but at the same time, I'm cautiously optimistic until we get that final answer. Again, there was money approved in August of last year. It was a portion of the money available. The state board took action this last Tuesday to approve additional funding. And that is going to set up how much we actually get towards the project in addition to the 16 million already approved.
Thank you. And last week, and this might be for Brian, I thought you were going to bring this up, so maybe this is the wrong time, but a new project was approved by the city of Desert Hot Springs, and there were some comments made during that process at the Planning Commission about the some issues relating to septic, to whether it's septic, whether it's not going to, and I realize that we're in a race now, in my view anyway. I hope the district feels the same way, to get construction complete on this project so that we can meet them in the street with our mains that will take their flows from the new facility over to our new plant, and save them the need to build a separate system. And so if somebody could eventually, and maybe now, chime in on that and let the community know, let the board know that we're making an effort to do that. So.
Okay, thank you.
President
have
Martin, would you
another
like me to
question, if
respond to
you
that?
don't mind.
I'm sorry, what?
Would you like me to respond to that?
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Director Grassi, yes, we have been working with that developer. As early as October, we met with them and we're basically asking the question, when will you need sewer service? And they said it'd be the third quarter of 2023. With that being known, we said, well, that's very good because that's when our plant should start coming online or have substantial completion. So at that point, we knew that the stars were aligning, if you will, for us to provide sanitary service to this. And we started talking about other options as far as a lift station, force main, and things like that. They stayed with their plan only to show that area as a potential site for septic and a package plant, if you will, but they do realize that we'll be prepared to have a lift station and a gravity line installed at that location. As actually in the notice of conditions of approval that we submitted to the Planning Commission that was part of that package that was presented to the city. It just wasn't openly discussed what our notice of conditions of approval were that did include a lift station and force main at that location. So yes, we are working with that developer to make sure that we can serve their needs and that the plant will be online to meet those needs.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Brian.
Russ, I had a question pop into mind.
Yeah, Randy, go ahead.
And this is for either Steve or maybe Arturo wants to chime in on this one. The Fed chief said earlier that the Fed will be raising interest rates as early as next month. Does that affect SRF funds, or does the state have its own pool that it loans at whatever rate it wants?
Director Duncan, I have asked that question 2 weeks ago, and I have not gotten a response back yet from the state. The staff didn't know. They had to run it through management to get that determination, and I haven't been updated yet. But we are looking into that, knowing that the Fed is raising rates.
It is going to be minimal, but all right, thank you.
Okay, anything further? Okay, moving on to item 13, Critical Services Center and Administrative Building update.
Thank you, President Martin. As you recall, 2 weeks ago, we had a workshop on this item where our district consultant, Renewal Clark, updated the board and showed some renderings and got some very good feedback. I appreciate all the feedback we did receive. They are currently updating their site and building exhibits to reflect the board's comments that they received. Our hope is to receive an updated site and building exhibits prior to our April board meeting, and we can present them at that time and get additional feedback. So again, thank you for the workshop we had a couple of weeks ago, and we'll continue to pass along information as it becomes available.
Okay, thank you. The only comment that I have to make is I attended a community meeting, and the comment was made that it would be a good idea to, as soon as possible, to send a save the date memo to electeds throughout the Coachella Valley, because we're getting a lot of questions. When is this going to start? When are you going to start construction? When is this going to go be finished, and things like that? So as soon as we know, let's make sure that we get out a save the date memo for people who might be interested.
Are you making reference to this or critical services building or the regional plant?
Both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Steve alluded to that the regional plant was going to be in April. We are thinking at that time the site will be ready to have some type of official ceremony in June. So we're working with Marion and working with some of the elected to make sure that that date is on everybody's calendar. I would love to say that the critical services facility will be that early, but unfortunately it'll be a little bit behind that.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to item 13, Critical Services Center and Administrative Building. Is there anything more on that? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Item 14, approval of minutes. Everybody take a look at the minutes in their binder, and we will address that on Monday if there's any changes or corrections. That will be for the study session on February 17th and the board meeting of February 22nd. Also take a look at the register of demands. If there's any questions or comments, we'll address that on Monday. I have in the binder a correspondence, a thank you letter from Bubbling Wells Elementary School. And I was asked to read this in person because it's kind of nice to have positive feedback from people that we're dealing with. This is a letter of commendation to the customer service desk. The person's name sending us in was a Harut Estefanian. Hope I pronounced that right. Company name at Kariri Homes LLC. You have demonstrated consistency of high quality service. Every time we've called, you've had demonstrated with a kind and respectful manner. As a builder and a customer, we highly value such a quality. Thank you to the management to have such a quality person to help us move forward in building houses. Thank you. Sincerely, Harut Estefanian. We have another correspondence here. This is on behalf of Jeannie D. Baver and Amy Barrow at the engineering department. Again, that's from Harut Estefanian from Kariri Homes LLC. I build houses in San Bernardino County. This is the first time I've finished building a house in Desert Hot Springs, and now planning to start a second one. As a builder, we have so many things to worry about until the project is completed. It's been an amazing experience to work with Jeannie and Amy at the engineering department. They continue to impress us by there. Okay. Kind, supportive, and quick to respond over and over to make things easier. As a builder, we value and appreciate such a service on behalf of the water company. Such individuals are important asset to your company. It is important to recognize individuals for their continued effort. Thank you to Mission Springs Water District and the management to have such quality people help us. It's always nice to have feedback like that. Item 18, director's reports. Does anybody want to give their director's report today? Nancy?
I already gave, I think whatever's on there, I think I did it already.
Okay,
Oh, I don't think I had any.
okay. Ivan, do you want to give yours on today or Monday?
I can go today. I have nothing to report on.
Oh, well, that's good. Director Grasha, do you have any meetings you care to report on today?
Not really. I just to reiterate that I've been heavily, I don't know what the word is, but I've been heavily involved in what's going on with our friends at the South with redistricting, and it looks like, I think we've come to an agreeable conclusion. I don't know if the rest of the board feels that way, but I have a question for David Eli along those lines, and I'll wait for Monday for that. I think he'll be here with that for that report. So that's the important stuff going on.
Okay. All right, Director Duncan, do you have any reports of meetings you attended?
Monday, if I could, please.
Monday, okay, all right. And I will do Monday as well. General Manager's report.
Thank you, President Martin. In the agenda packet for your review and information is the General Manager's report. Some of the monthly highlights in addition to public affairs after this. Just reminding everybody that our lobby is open to the public by appointment only. We continue to ask for those with past due notices or balances to contact our customer service staff, as we will be resuming disconnections for non-payment in the month of April, only a couple of weeks away. Progress continues on the customer portal, and we will be bringing a demonstration to the board at our next meeting in April. Our construction maintenance staff continues to respond to leaks and proactively replacing water services. Our wastewater department continues to clean the collection system. We talked about the emergency repair and also to operate the district facilities. Please remember, for those of you in the public, that flushable wipes are not flushable. We have been working with Representative Dr. Ruiz's office to pass legislation in Washington, D.C. regarding flushable or non-flushable wipes. The legislation, while it looks promising in the House, nothing has been presented in the Senate yet. We'll keep the board updated on that. Engineering and Wastewater Resources Group continue with the construction design of several large capital projects, as well as the two that we mentioned today, as well as Sigma and integrated regional water management activities. If there's any questions about the report or any of the items in there, I'm available right now.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Ivan? Randy?
No, thank you.
Steve?
No questions. Thanks. It was a great report. I'm still reading it, but good report. Thank you.
Yeah, you have another opportunity to comment it on Monday. Okay, moving on to district council comments.
So I was not planning to have a closed session today
Okay,
unless the board feels otherwise.
I don't think so. If
Okay.
if any members of the board would like a closed session, maybe we can address that on Monday.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to director's comments. Director Grusha.
No comment today. Thank you.
Okay, Director Duncan.
Brian already answered my only question or comment, and that was when we were going to get the lobby opened up again. And I'm glad to see that that's open, even if it's by appointment. That's good.
Okay.
Glad to see that back up again. Thank you.
Director Sewell.
I just got a question. Which groundwater protection project or groundwater quality project, part of our program, groundwater protection program. Which area is Parma in? The street that our commenter was talking about, where in the district is that located? I mean, I'm just wondering how close are we to getting to that area? Let's put it that way.
Marion, do you want to take this question? Or would you
Sure.
like me to?
I believe design is already complete, but we're waiting on funding to do the actual construction of the project.
So the grant money to come in.
Yeah,
To acquire.
that's the status of just about all of
Right.
our sites, except for the one up in Mission Lakes. That one we still need to design, but everything else has been designed and we're just waiting for the appropriate funding to come through the core to meet that 50% match.
Okay, it must be up in the highlands if their septic tanks are failing, where the rock is.
I think
The
it's,
bedrock, maybe.
it's between Hacienda and Desert View, just west of Miracle Hill.
Oh, so it's closer. Okay.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. I have one comment. The last city council meeting I attended, there was a comment made by Councilwoman Jan Pye, who stated that she had an encounter with a woman after a district meeting. And the woman said that she didn't feel like the participants looked anything like her, and that she didn't feel that her comments would be taken seriously, or that her questions would be answered. So I just want to get a clarification that, and Jan's response was perfect. As elected officials and government agencies with and staff of government agencies, we are public servants, and it doesn't matter about the way you look. If you want to, we will answer your questions and address your concerns. Some people were confused as to whether or not that was when Jan was talking about after a district meeting, whether it was a water district meeting, and no, it was the city's workshop on districting that took place on March 9th. And it was after the conclusion of that meeting that she had the encounter with a woman. So with that, if there's nothing further, the meeting is adjourned until Monday.
Thank you for that clarification very much.
All right, have a good weekend.